Get out of this section immediately. We can't have someone like you in first class today of all days. The CEO's audit team is arriving, and frankly, you're ruining the image we need to present," the pilot said sternly to Jessica, the black woman who had just entered the first-class cabin. Jessica had walked into the premium section wearing simple jeans and a casual shirt. The flight attendants and pilot's eyes swept over her modest attire with unconcealed disdain, their expressions hardening as she approached her assigned seat. Several other first-class passengers glanced up from their devices, some with curiosity, others with similar looks of disapproval. "I'm sorry, but I think you're in the wrong place," the pilot continued with a condescending smile, gesturing toward the economy section at the back of the plane. "This area is reserved for our elite passengers, and you clearly don't belong here." As the flight attendants exchanged knowing smirks behind their professionally maintained smiles and other passengers stared or pretended not to notice, Jessica felt her face flush with embarrassment. She clutched her boarding pass tightly, preparing to reveal who she really was. What the crew didn't realize was that the passenger they were trying to remove from the VIP seat, the woman they had just humiliated, insulted, and threatened, was not only their employer but also the very person whose audit team they had been anxiously preparing for all morning. Have you ever been judged unfairly based solely on your appearance? It happens more often than many would like to admit. Share your story with us in the comments section below. Where are you watching from today? Don't forget to tap that subscribe button right now, because the moment of reckoning that follows in this story is something you definitely won't want to miss. Emily Thompson, 38, wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She had dedicated over half her life climbing the corporate ladder at what would eventually become Horizon Airways Group. Her journey began 16 years earlier when she first donned a flight attendant uniform, determined to transform her passion for aviation into a successful career. The daughter of an aircraft mechanic and a public school teacher from a modest neighborhood, Emily grew up listening to her father's fascinating stories about commercial planes he repaired during his 30-year career. Meanwhile, her mother, who taught 6th grade math, instilled in her both academic curiosity and unwavering self-confidence. When Emily announced her airline industry ambitions, her parents offered support tempered with realism. "You'll need to work twice as hard for half the recognition," her father cautioned, knowing the challenges his daughter would face. Her mother simply squeezed her hand and added, "Then she'll work 3 times as hard." And work she did. While serving passengers, Emily simultaneously earned her business degree during evenings. Unlike colleagues who viewed their positions as temporary, she studied the airline's operational structure, constantly questioning logistics, customer experience, and brand development. Within 5 years, she moved to scheduling, and by her 10th year, she was managing crew operations, her extraordinary advancement resulting not from connections but from insights gained through experiencing every level of service. When the board appointed Emily as CEO, it wasn't a publicity stunt or diversity initiative. It was recognition that Emily Thompson understood the airline business from the ground up in ways her MBA-educated competitors never could. As CEO, Emily implemented what industry insiders considered a revolutionary approach to quality control. Rather than relying solely on customer surveys or scheduled inspections, she would travel incognito on various routes, deliberately dressing casually and removing all indicators of her executive position. She would check in like any ordinary passenger, sit where her ticket assigned her, and carefully observe how employees treated everyday customers. "The true measure of a company isn't how they treat people they know are important," she often told her executive team during meetings. "It's how they treat the person they believe doesn't matter." This philosophy explained why, on this particular Tuesday morning, Emily was preparing for another undercover evaluation. For today's Atlanta to Chicago flight, she had chosen deliberately modest attire: well-worn jeans, a simple navy t-shirt without designer labels, minimal jewelry, and her natural hair pulled back practically. Looking in the hotel mirror before departure, she nodded with satisfaction. Nothing about her appearance suggested she controlled a multi-billion-dollar corporation, perfect for seeing how staff treated ordinary passengers. What Emily couldn't know was that this particular evaluation would reveal far more than she had anticipated. Earlier that morning at Horizon Airways Atlanta hub, operations manager Daniel Foster had called an emergency briefing with all staff assigned to Flight 1087. "I have critical information," he announced to the assembled crew, his voice tense. "The corporate audit team will be on today's flight to Chicago. Everyone needs to be at their absolute best." The room immediately filled with nervous whispers and anxious glances between crew members. These surprise evaluations were notorious for determining promotions and terminations. "Do we know who specifically is coming?" asked senior flight attendant Lisa Parker, a 25-year veteran known for her stringent adherence to protocol and company hierarchy. "No specific names," Daniel replied, "just that they'll be evaluating every aspect of our premium service experience. They report directly to CO Thompson." In the corner, Captain Michael Stevens straightened his already immaculate uniform. At 58, with nearly 3 decades at the airline, Stevens had built a reputation for operational excellence, sometimes at the expense of passenger comfort. His technical skills were flawless, but his customer satisfaction scores had been steadily declining for years. As the briefing concluded, Stevens pulled Parker aside, lowering his voice. "We need first class looking absolutely perfect today, no exceptions." Lisa nodded firmly. "Premium service for premium passengers only. If the CEO's team sees anything out of place, we're all in trouble," Stevens added. "We know what our real first class passengers expect." Neither noticed Rachel Martinez, A junior flight attendant recently transferred from Denver, listening nearby with a troubled expression. As Emily approached Gate B12, she immediately noticed the unusual level of activity. Gate agents were frantically polishing counters, adjusting their uniforms, and reviewing passenger manifests with intense concentration. The typical pre-boarding chaos had been replaced with what appeared to be a carefully orchestrated performance. Amanda Wilson, the lead gate agent, was obsessively reorganizing the boarding area. She adjusted the premium boarding sign repeatedly, wiped down surfaces that were already clean, and nervously shuffled through documents. Her supervisor, James Taylor, observed nearby with critical attention. "Everything must be flawless today," James reminded his staff in a hushed but urgent tone. "First-class customers get special attention. Check for elite status indicators and address platinum members by name." Emily observed this exchange from a nearby seating area, having deliberately arrived early to watch the pre-boarding process, a critical customer touchpoint executives rarely witnessed firsthand. When priority boarding was announced, Emily joined the line behind several business travelers in expensive suits. Amanda processed the first few passengers with impeccable service, offering warm smiles and personalized greetings to each. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison. Chicago again this week. Your usual seat is ready. Welcome back, Miss Bennett. We've noted your champagne preference for pre-departure service." But when Emily presented her boarding pass and ID, Amanda's demeanor transformed completely. The gate agent barely looked up, her eyes fixed on Emily's casual clothing rather than her face. There was no greeting, no smile, just mechanical efficiency as she processed the documents, her expression visibly changing when she noticed the first-class seat assignment. Why would they book someone like her in first class today of all days? Amanda whispered to her colleague, not quite quietly enough. "When they know we're expecting the CEO's team." Inside the aircraft, senior flight attendant Lisa Parker was making final adjustments to the first-class cabin with almost obsessive precision. Every napkin was perfectly folded, every seat aligned to exact specifications. "Everything must be immaculate for the audit team," she instructed Rachel Martinez, the junior flight attendant. "Make sure the pillows are positioned at precisely the same angle in each seat." As the first passengers began boarding, Lisa stationed herself at the entrance. Passenger manifest in hand, she greeted each first-class traveler with practiced warmth, checking names against her list while scanning for potential VIPs. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Davidson. Your Manhattan will be ready whenever you'd like it. So lovely to see you again, Dr. Williams. The captain asked me to personally welcome you back." These personalized greetings continued until Emily appeared in the doorway. Lisa's transformation was immediate and striking. Her warm smile vanished, replaced by barely concealed dismay. Her eyes darted from Emily's face to her casual clothing, then to the boarding pass. "There must be some mistake with your seat assignment," Lisa said without any attempt to mask her disapproval. "Let me see your boarding pass." Emily handed over her documentation, silently observing Lisa's reaction. The flight attendant scrutinized the boarding pass as if searching for evidence of forgery, her forehead creasing with increasing concern. "This says 2A, that's in first class," Lisa stated unnecessarily, her tone suggesting this was somehow problematic. "Yes, I'm aware," Emily replied calmly. With obvious reluctance, Lisa returned the boarding pass. "Very well. Your seat is the second row on the right." As Emily moved toward her assigned seat, she overheard Lisa whispering urgently to Rachel, "We can't have her in first class when the executives arrive. She completely ruins the premium image." Emily settled into seat 2A, a spacious first-class accommodation by the window. Unlike the passengers around her who were promptly offered champagne and warm towels, she was conspicuously ignored. She observed as Lisa fussed over other first-class passengers while deliberately avoiding her section. After several minutes, when all other premium customers had been served, Rachel approached with a glass of water. "I thought you might like something to drink," she said quietly, offering a small apologetic smile. "Thank you," Emily replied. "It's very thoughtful." As the final economy passengers boarded, Lisa returned to the first-class cabin with a passenger manifest and approached Emily's seat with determined purpose. "Mum, there's a situation with your seating arrangement," she announced loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear. Several executives in tailored suits glanced up from their devices, watching the interaction unfold. "Is there a problem with my ticket?" Emily asked, knowing perfectly well there wasn't. "No, but today we're expecting a corporate audit team," Lisa explained, her voice tense. "We need to present a certain image, I'm sure you understand." The implication hung in the air, unmistakable in its meaning. Emily decided to force Lisa to be explicit. "And what image is that exactly?" she asked directly, maintaining steady eye contact. Lisa's composure faltered momentarily. She hadn't expected to be challenged. "Professional executive, our typical first-class demographic." She gestured vaguely at Emily's clothing, and then at the business travelers surrounding them. A middle-aged man across the aisle lowered his financial newspaper slightly, watching the exchange with undisguised interest. An older woman in designer clothes had turned to observe, her expression a mixture of discomfort and curiosity. "I see," Emily replied calmly. "Well, I paid for this seat and I'll be staying in it. My appearance has no bearing on my right to be here." Lisa's professional veneer cracked further, revealing genuine panic. She retreated momentarily, conferring with other crew members near the galley. Emily could see her gesturing animatedly while looking in her direction, clearly strategizing how to remove the unsuitable passenger from first class. The boarding door closed and standard announcements began. Lisa checked her watch repeatedly, scanning the cabin with increasing agitation. When the boarding complete announcement came over the PA system, her expression shifted from concern to confusion. They should be here by now, she muttered, pacing between the galley and the front row. The cockpit door swung open with force as Captain Michael Stevens emerged into the first-class cabin. His immaculate uniform displayed 4 gold stripes on each shoulder and his demeanor radiated authority. "What's the holdup?" he demanded, scanning the cabin with irritation. Lisa quickly pulled him aside, speaking in hushed but urgent tones while gesturing discreetly toward Emily. Though their conversation wasn't meant to be overheard, the tension carried their words to nearby passengers. "She refuses to move," Lisa explained. "I've tried explaining about the audit, but she won't budge." Captain Stevens straightened his jacket and approached Emily's seat with practiced confidence. Several passengers pretended to look away while watching from the corners of their eyes. A young executive across the aisle didn't even pretend, openly recording the interaction on his smartphone. "Mom, I understand you're causing a disruption," Stevens began, his tone suggesting the matter was already decided. "I'm simply sitting in my assigned seat," Emily responded calmly. The captain's jaw tightened visibly. "Look," he said, lowering his voice slightly but maintaining an edge of contempt. "Both know you don't belong up here. Not today, not when we're being evaluated." "My ticket entitles me to this seat," Emily replied evenly, "and I intend to remain in it for the duration of the flight." Something in Stevens's expression hardened. Without asking permission, he reached for Emily's carry-on bag stowed beside her seat. "Let me help you relocate to where you'll be more comfortable," he said, condescension dripping from every word. Emily immediately blocked his hand, pulling her bag away. "Don't touch my belongings." The captain straightened, his face flushing with barely contained anger at being defied in front of other passengers. "This attitude is exactly the problem," he said, voice rising slightly. "Your kind always has to make a scene." A heavy silence fell over the first-class cabin. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. An elderly woman gasped audibly. In the galley, Rachel froze, horror crossing her face at her captain's words. Stevens leaned closer to Emily, lowering his voice though not enough to prevent his words from being heard. "Let me be clear," he said with deliberate precision. "This section is for our professional clientele, not for housekeepers playing dress-up." The naked Prejudice hung in the air like a physical presence. Emily maintained her composure, though her eyes hardened. "Excuse me, what exactly are you implying?" she challenged. "Don't play innocent," Stevens scoffed. "You know exactly what I mean." Emboldened by the captain's hostility, Lisa stepped forward. "You're embarrassing yourself. Why not just go back where you belong?" Stevens looked Emily up and down with exaggerated skepticism. "What's next? You'll claim you're some kind of executive yourself?" A businessman in an expensive suit chimed in. "Some people just want attention." Stevens nodded in agreement. "If you had any class, you'd understand why you don't fit in here." "Final warning," Stevens stated, "all pretense of customer service abandoned. Move to economy or I'll have security remove you when we land." The threat hung in the air, but instead of cowering, Emily remained perfectly calm. She looked directly into the captain's eyes and said, "I'd like your full name and employee ID number, Captain." Stevens actually laughed, a short dismissive sound. "You think you're in a position to make demands?" Emily reached for her phone, maintaining steady eye contact as she dialed. His smug expression faltered slightly as she spoke with unmistakable authority. "This is Thompson," she said clearly. "I need immediate executive intervention on Flight 1087. Stevens, still not comprehending what was happening, scoffed again. "Who do you think you're calling? Your lawyer?" Emily ended her call and returned the phone to her pocket with deliberate calm. "I'm calling my executive team," she replied evenly. "The audit you're so worried about, it's already happening." The captain's confident expression began to crumble. "What are you talking about, Captain Michael Stevens?" Emily began, her voice taking on a new authority that seemed to transform the cabin atmosphere. "Employee ID 4 feet A72, 27 years with Western Regional before the merger with Horizon. Consistently excellent technical evaluations. Consistently problematic passenger satisfaction scores, particularly from women and minorities." Stevens froze, his face transitioning from confusion to dawning horror. "How do you?" "Senior Flight Attendant Lisa Parker," Emily continued, shifting her gaze. "Employee ID 3259, 25 years of service, 14 customer complaints in the past year alone for selective service, a pattern your supervisor somehow never addressed." Emily stood, her posture transforming from passive passenger to executive authority. Several nearby passengers instinctively straightened in their seats. "I am Emily Thompson, Chief Executive Officer of this airline," she stated. "And I am the audit team you've been waiting for."